I am Rita Linneman, and I am the product manager for Easy CBM. With me, I have Alan Dobbs, who is our trainer extraordinaire with Easy CBM. And so between the two of us, we are going to kind of cover a little bit in regards to Easy CBM with getting started. I know there's probably a few of you who could probably do the training yourself because you've been using the system for a while, and then we have some that are totally brand new. So I'm glad to have you. Um, Today, we will go over just a little bit about your early literacy measures and administration, setting up your benchmark window if you have not done that already, basic updates, where to find training and resources, and then the Connecticut folks, Abe and his team, will have some closing remarks. So, as most of you know, Easy CBM was created by the University of Oregon and their Behavioral Research and Teaching Team. So sometimes we'll refer to them as BRT. The assessments are research-based. They're valued, they're reliable assessments that correlate with state standardized reading assessments. A study in 2023 was done, and one of the districts that we used is on the call. And we used their Easy CBM benchmark data and compared Smarter Balance data with the reading, and those reading composites predicted 95% of high-risk students for all grades and all seasons. So there is a high predictability with using Easy CBM. The Easy CBM assessments will have, actually they have already, 2025 norms for reading, math, and Spanish to see how students are comparing relative to their other students in the nation enrolled at that same level. As reflected in the name, Easy CBM is a curriculum-based measurement, which is what the Connecticut DOE was looking for. They are designed to be brief measures administered 3 times per year, fall, winter, and spring, to answer the question of which students might need additional assistance to succeed and those who are at risk for not knowing what they need to by the end of the year. So the students at risk will be doing then progress monitoring, which is also available in the system. And that can be done throughout the year to check the effectiveness of the interventions that you put in place. There are progress monitoring, again, at any level, at all levels, and multiple measures. So the testing cycle, you're the head administrator for Easy CBM in your district in most cases, and you're going to be setting one of the first things you do with setup is set up your benchmark measures, which is done under the managed system settings. There is a quick guide that's available in resources also. Benchmark scores are meant to be gathered at about the same time each season. So no students are receiving an unfair advantage of additional curriculum instruction. So therefore, we usually recommend keeping those dates within 2 to 3 weeks is ideal. The Connecticut Department of Education has set the following benchmark windows for the 25-26 school year. So September 8th to October 17th is your beginning of the year dates. December 8th to February 6th will be your middle of the year. April 20th to June 5th will be your end of the year. Your testing must occur sometime in that window. The first day your administrator sets for your benchmark window will be the date that will appear on your reports. So again, it's important that you keep within those dates. For those students who need progress monitoring in between those benchmark windows, again, go ahead and use those progress monitoring measures at those points at that point in time. So with the reading benchmarks, you can assess them students either with paper, pencil, or online. And they don't all need to be administered in the same mode. So if you wanted to administer, passage reading fluency online and proficient reading with paper and then entering those in, you could do that. The reading assessments available are really based on the National Reading Panel Big Five constructs of reading. So it's phonemic awareness, which would include then phoneme segmenting, letter names, phonics, your letter sounds, fluency, the word reading fluency measures and the passage reading fluency measures, vocab, and then comprehension. And we have the two different kinds, the basic and the proficient. These constructs are the same essential reading skills that are required and that are built with the reading, the science of reading. The assessments for grades K and 1 are a series of 1-minute timed fluency measures. So fluency, so as the chart shows, students in K take letter names, letter sounds, and then phoneme segmenting is in the fall, and then they take word reading fluency, letter sounds, and phoneme segment in the winter and the spring. So that varies. Same with first grade. The change in the benchmarks occurs from fall administration with phoneme segmenting to passage reading fluency in the winter and spring. And it's really following researched reading progression expectations for kids at those grade levels. Oops. I had also mentioned about the basic reading and the proficient reading. The proficient reading is what should be used when you are doing your reading benchmark assessment with your students that is being reported to the state, and that is used in the calculation of the composite score. The basic reading is more for students who you know are behind, and if you want to get another measure on how they're doing and breaking it up in smaller bits, but for reporting purposes, you want to be using that proficient reading. Okay. The rapid auto naming or RAN benchmark is available also in K and 1. This is an optional measure as RAN is currently not on the CSDE approved menu. So oftentimes phoneme segmenting, letter sounds, word and passage reading fluency measures are often used to screen for dyslexia. Those are great indicators to let you know if dyslexia, if a child's at risk with dyslexia. So in general, the kids that are higher risk tend to be those slower namers. They have greater pause times, which is associated with reading accuracy and fluency, and they have difficult then usually retrieving automatic processes. So the RAND measure really provides just another check for you to determine some students who might be at risk. That is also available normed, but again, it is not a requirement for your scoring that will be sent. Okay, I am going to actually stop sharing and I'm going to have Alan kind of go live. We are going to look at, I'll stop sharing so he can pull up his live. And hopefully it's sharing. Yeah. And we're going to look at how then they use the bench, how to administer a fluency benchmark measure and give you an example right online.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to walk you through how to administer the measures. When a teacher logs into the system, they will simply select the Measures tab. And you'll notice right here under Benchmarks, there's a little black arrow. This lets folks know that the window is actually open because this is where they would go to enter either those fall, winter, or spring scores. And then down below, you can clearly see which assessments need to be administered for each grade level. So they are listed here for them. And notice off to the far right, for all of our fluency measures, it says a student copy and an assessor copy. So what we would need to do is the teacher would need to come in and actually print out a student copy.
I'm sorry, Alan. I don't think I'm seeing, are you guys seeing his screen?
Yeah,
You're good.
Yep, it's just me. Okay, thank you. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're fine. So we'd want to print out a student copy for the students. This is one, obviously, you're just going to pass from student to student. And on some of the others, for example, like your proficient reading, for your passage reading fluency, what you would have here on the assessor copy is instructions. Some of these don't have them, obviously, because like phoning would not have, or actually the letters would not have that. But these instructions would need to be read to the student from either the paper copy, or they could open it up, obviously, just as an additional tab. And if you'll notice, the form is designed so that they could administer it paper pencil. However, they would have to do all the math and figure out the count of words per minute if they wanted to do it that way. But there is certainly a way easier way to do this assessment. And we really don't recommend doing it this way unless you just absolutely have to. So we're going to print out an assessor copy and then one student copy, obviously, to pass from student to student. And then when they're ready to administer, they're going to come back up there to that fall window that we just looked at. I'm going to enter my fall scores. And from here, what we'll see is fall. And then as the year goes along, you have winter and spring. So here's my grade K, 1 and 2. And then down below, you'll notice that I have some students here that already have scores. So if a teacher wanted to do them paper pencil, they do have the ability to come here and hand add in the score once they grade it. Or the more efficient way would be to select this link, item level data. Now you'll notice everything says enter answers. So I would choose enter answers for my passage reading fluency. The first screen that would come up is total words. So again, I could do paper pencil. When I'm done, I could type in the total words read, the numbers of errors, and the system would auto calculate the math for me. And you would also have the ability to use the stopwatch right here on the screen. So nobody needs their phone or an additional stopwatch. The more efficient way to do this, I want to see the form actually online. So I'm going to click on this link that says passage text, and then there it is. So now I read the instructions to the student, and then they read from their copy, and I start the timer. And as you start the timer, the teacher just follows along with the student, clicking on every word, in this case, that they get incorrect. The nice thing about this online form is, again, teachers don't have to pay attention to anything other than the student reading, listening closely, and that way they're not concerned about the time. As a student moves through the form, if they self-correct themselves, the teacher has the ability to come back and deselect it and then continue to move on. Now, right now, it's marking the incorrect word as I click, right? A little slash mark there. But when this timer runs out, the system will actually flash blue on the screen to the teacher, and it will move from marking the incorrect word to putting the last word bracket on the form for them. So watch here as my timer is actually running out, clicking along. Here we go. Flashes. Next time I click, it puts the last word bracket. I click save. And then at the bottom, the score will automatically be available. So I'm working through each student independently, giving the form. And again, for kindergarten, grade 1, where you're looking at those other measures, it's going to be exactly the same thing as well. So here is a letter names. It all looks exactly the same. Everything has that stopwatch and the ability to administer directly online. Now, for the other measures that they have available, which in this case would be, for example, here in kindergarten, we have the proficient reading, and then, for grade 2, and then here's proficient as well. So let's go to grade 2. Here's vocabulary, and there's that proficient reading. Again, you can administer it online, paper pencil if you want to, but really this is designed to be administered online. So what would happen is that from the same URL, students would log in on the student side of Easy CBM. Nice thing about the program is students do not have login information. Whichever teacher they are associated with in the roster upload is what they would type in. Now, I've got a very simple username here. A lot of times it's loaded in as the teacher's, the first part of their email address. So they would have to provide this to the student, perhaps up on the board. Once they log in, the student would select a group, And when we're giving a benchmark, we're obviously want to giving it to all of our students. So they select here, and then they'll simply select their name from the list. So there is a feature in the platform that you could have a password, but in most cases that's turned off. So you just want to make sure that students are clicking on the correct name. And then down below, they would choose the test that they're about to take. This is a third grade measure. So I'll show you what a third grade measure looks like here for basic reading. We'll take the test. So this is a basic reading. As Rita mentioned, this is going to be composed of short passages with 5 questions each. Student can change the font size up here at the top if they're having difficulty reading that. And then once they read the passage, they just select from one of the 3 answer choices, and they click the next button and move on to the next question. The only thing that will move is the questions. The text never moves, so students can scroll back up and reread if they choose to. You'll notice that there is a back button over here. Students can click the back button and go back and change their answer choices as if they want to. This is kind of a built-in cheat feature to make sure that students are looking over, their partner's shoulder in a computer lab and changing their response based off wherever they've selected, the top, bottom, or middle. In fact, every time you click the back, everything will reshuffle. So that's that kind of built-in cheat feature to make sure that they're not doing that. And then once a student has completed the test, they'll either go through the whole assessment, or if a student cannot finish the test in the time that you've given them, they can simply come up here to the top and select the Easy CBM logo. Takes them right back to the login page. The only thing you have to remember is with that tight window, you want to make sure that all students get back and they're able to get into the system before that window closes, because we highly do not recommend opening a window again. Because again, we're trying to get a snapshot in time of that small period in terms of that norming comparison. Let me just quickly show you what the vocabulary looks like. Again, I'm picking my all students group. Again, I'm going to choose my grade level, my name, and then from here, let's go to vocabulary. So with vocabulary, it's vocabulary and context. Serves as a mini maze. So it kind of serves as a small comprehension test and is a great step up to either the basic or proficient reading. Student, again, is selecting their answer choice and moving to the next question. So this is a great assessment for students to take. On this test, it actually shows the student what question they're on out of how many they have left. And again, since it's not timed, again, a student, if they can't finish, you can just simply have them select the Easy CBM logo, and you can bring them back the next day. Whenever a student does finish a test, it will essentially just show them the drop down again of what tests are still left available. So they pretty much just look like the same thing we've already seen down here at the bottom once you move through an entire test. It'll just give them the remainder that are available. So you could basically move from test to test. And remember, none of these are timed. So if you want to instruct them to move from one to the next, which would be proficient onto vocab or basic onto vocab, you could certainly do that. And that's how you administer your benchmark assessments. Rita, do you want to take back over, or are we going forward?
I can take it back over. The only thing that I wanted to point out is that if you are entering in why it is so important to enter in the benchmark or to enter in the item level detail, is because then you will get an accuracy score also under the individual, and it will come up in the data exports. If you're not entering in that item level data, then that you won't get an accuracy score, which is also another nice piece to have when figuring out kids who are at risk or not able to comprehend as well. And I did see Alan was on the RAN and administering the RAN assessment. I'm going to just go right live now on with that. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Wait, you can see that one? Okay. So the RAN measure, if you are using it in Easy CBM, it has its own tab. You will go to that tab, you'll enter in the spring, you're entering your results, same way as you do with your benchmark measures. And from there, then you will select the season should default. You'll select the grade, whether it's kindergarten or a first grade, the building, the teacher, and then the group of students. You will go ahead and then see the list of the students in that group. You can go ahead and hit enter. It is the same really look as the item level data in any of the other fluency measures. You're selecting it if they got an incorrect, and then moving forward, and then hitting save once you are done. There is a stopwatch. Unlike the other fluency measures, though, the RAN measure is not timed. I should say it is timed, but it is not there's not a time limit. So if it takes a student 90 seconds, then it takes a student 90 seconds. If a student's able to finish in 40 seconds, it's 40 seconds. And after they complete one form, they actually need to do both forms in order to get a score. So that is another important factor. With the RAN assessment also, another little difference is in regards to the practice. There is a practice kind of test prior. Since the RAN assessment uses numerals, you want to make sure, especially with those kindergartners, that they know their numbers. So there is a practice sheet where you just kind of read through the directions. You have them make sure that they know their numbers. If they know their numbers, then you can proceed onto the RAN assessment forms. If they don't know numbers, then you should not be using the RAN for that. So then, yeah, you can just go ahead and click save. The other report, so then after you've done all your testing, you've tested the 3 measures, a student is going to receive benchmark scores. That is clearly seen under reports. It defaults right away to that benchmark page, that top tab. Here, there's a table with the 3 measures for that grade are listed, and then a risk level, the suggested progress monitoring, and then Luxile if you have that enabled in your system. In each box, there is the raw score, and the percentile of the score is also there on the left. Now, last week, we updated it to 2025 norms, so it is already reflecting those norms. We also updated the percentile default lines. Yours will be locked in since we are following the state guidelines where for risk, but those are the same default lines that Easy CBM has now put into place, where it's 25% is the low risk or high risk, and below 26 to 40 is the some risk, the yellow, and after that it would be considered low risk. You can also sort any of those header columns for quick identification of overall risk, to see, for setting up groups, if you want all your yellows or reds together in a group, or to see overall patterns and strengths for weaknesses. This could also be exported out into a CSV file, that was benchmark risk reports. And then, like I said, once you see who is at risk, it's good to add in a group. Teachers will see right up at the top by groups that they can add a group. They're just typing in the name and then checking off those students that will be in that group, so that you can start your interventions right away with those students that you see that are at risk. So again, just going over a little bit on what is risk. So each of the measures, the three benchmark measures, is takes place provides the composite score. You need to take all three measures in order to get the composite score. Um, Risk is the same for all of them. So again, anything that you see as red in that's highlighted with the red circle is going to be, or with the red box on that benchmark report, is somebody who's high risk. Yellow would be that some risk. Low risk is that 41 to 89th percent. And then green is your 90th to 99th percent. So that would be a very low risk category. The composite score reports can be found under reports by selecting the appropriate year. So similar to what we just had seen with RAN, the season, the grade, the building, the teacher, and the group. And then there you're going to see this list, an example like this of a list of raw scores and percentiles for each of the three benchmarks, the calculated composite, and they're all reflected. Again, this one report also can be exported, and we are defaulting again to match the Connecticut level of risk. And why am I freezing? Oh, there. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So just to kind of go over a little bit of the scores within Easy CBM, you have the percentile. A percentile anywhere from 1 to 99. It's just kind of a nice way to determine a student's relative rank and position. In the national sample group that was done, the score is actually the raw score of how the student answered those questions. The Lexile, again, is provided on that benchmark report and also on a data export if you have that enabled under your managed system settings. So the Lexile shows up when for students in grades 2 to 8 who have taken the proficient reading assessment. Okay. Some other scores that you see again are the accuracy score, which is what I had indicated why you would want to use the item level data and enter that in. It helps just see where that student's frustration level is. We usually say if accuracy is below that 80%, the student is frustrated and usually unable to comprehend. So just another nice indicator. There is a rate of improvement that can be seen on the individual tabs. After the fall benchmark is taken, the rate of improvement is automatically calculated after each measure within that grade for the year. And it's basing it, taking that difference between days and what the raw score is and automatically calculating it. So you can kind of see if growth is what is expected by comparing it to what the 50th percentile is of our average student. The other is the composite score that is available in Easy CBM, and the composite score is a Z-score mathematical weighting of all three of those reading benchmark measures, which looks at it equally. So it's not taking an average. There were a lot of questions in regards to the composite last year. It's not averaging those three measures. It is actually weighting it, taking the means and the standard deviation and calculating that out. So it is mathematically much more accurate than if you were just taking average. So that's why you will see differences sometimes, or it might be higher or lower than what the other scores or measures are. The parent report is another report in Easy CBM that is great to send home for parents who, with conferences. I'm not sure if that is also part of your requirements with your Literacy Act. If you need to be sending something home, the parent report, though, can easily be printed out, as a whole class or individually. It will show the benchmark results, their raw score, the percentile. It will be color coded by risk, and then at the very bottom will be the actual composite and indicating risk there. The trajectory lines also give an idea if students are on track or not. Those reports can also be downloaded and exported in batches. Updates for 2025, I've kind of hinted on that a little bit throughout. So again, we have new norms and percentile default lines. Those were put in last week. We now are offering, we already had Class Link. We are offering, or Clever, we are offering Class Link starting this week. So if you want to use auto syncing that way, please let us know. We are updating our manual in September. It's in process and it will be loaded sometime next month. And those percentile lines again are following your defaults with 25 for high risk and 40 for some risk. Okay. Resources, and I'm Alan, I think I'm going to put you back on the spot and kind of go through this, and I'll stop sharing. But there are a lot of tools in, I am going to stop sharing. There are a lot of tools in Easy CBM that are available under the resources tab. So there's quick guides, online support. You can go into under training. There's a view training website module where you can learn more about benchmark and progress monitoring. There's also quick quizzes to take and check for understanding of the measures. The guides for head administrators help you with getting started for a new school year, guide you through managing those district settings, go over uploading data files, and then that will also be where our updated overview manual is. There is a speak to a specialist that is also going to be, available. And this is why you don't want to really give me the power to use the screens, because I am not smooth with this. Alan, are you able to share?
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to go right here. And I'm just going to show directly. I just wanted to.
Are you pulling up the complimentary site? Oh, okay. I can show it now if you want to.
Yeah. So on the resources page, there is this complimentary website. If you hit that view website, new teachers, new people using the program, that is a good way for them to kind of check basic understanding. The overview manual, that is what's being updated. It will be laid out a little bit easier and have some of our newer features that have come in the last couple of years, like the RAND measure, more detail on that, and the composite score. There is already in there too a 2020 to 2025 norms comparison chart. And here are all the guides that are available. There are also some nonsense words that are available if you wanted to use or check that at all with a student. But we also have that in our other applications that are free in Easy CBM and CBM Skills and Write right now. And then, oh, okay. See? And lastly, I am going to go over, I'm going to make you all sick, and I am going to see it. I want to stop and see if you guys have any questions. And then I'm going to pass it back to our team in Connecticut and see if they have anything that some closing remarks that they would like to add. But in general, I've sent out to everybody the consent form, the data consent. If you would like us to be reporting your data to the state, we do need that back. We then will report. We are reporting the raw score for each of those benchmark measures that are required, the percentile, the label for the reading measure, whether they are high, some are low risk, and then the composite score. So just for full transparency on what we are covering. Any questions?
Rita, I'm going to jump in here, and feel free to, if you all have questions, feel free to come off mic or drop in the chat your question. I just want to offer clarification based on our menu. When MSU, Michigan State, reviewed the assessments, they had not, I know you mentioned the RAN, but RAN is not required by us from our menu in K, just letter naming fluency. So I know it's available, but we are only asking for letter naming fluency. That might change down the road, but for the time being, that is the case. Okay, any questions? I'm also, while we're here, I'm also going to drop in our just regular K-3 literacy assessment page. In particular, I want to just flag the fact that was at the top of the resources. There's a lot of questions we've been getting, for instance, testing students who might be identified as ELML, testing students who might have an IEP and might be eligible for the alternate assessment, that type of thing. I know there's probably more you'll think of. You can send them to us and we will add to it. It is an evolving document, but it's Katie and Kim worked very hard to create this to capture many of the questions that have come up. I see the Madison team typing.
And Abe, I'm also going to give a shout out to Kristen Allen, who also helped in that project.
Yeah.
And Michelle.
Shout outs for sure. Thank you. Read it.
And I saw that question in regards to norms. Thanks, Madison. Yes. Once we went live, they are live as of that point. So as of last week, so everything will be 2025 norms going forward for the next 5 years. We're on a 5-year cycle with updating our norms. It does not revert or change back anything previous. So next week, in this next week, we should have the new norms tables up. Those are still reflective of the old norms. Those tables should be there up by the PDFs. Those you will want to be then now using with the new norms interpretations, and we've added the 40th percentile also as a default.
I see teams thinking, Madison team, I don't know if you have, I'll just wait here if you have another question. I think, Gail, I think you said, yes, we do, so we'll wait. Oh. Yeah. Gold standard. Katie, do you want to touch on this one? I know, Gail, it was reviewed by, yeah, if it's on the menu and it's blessed on the menu, it was blessed by the MSU team on the review. That board report is on that, the board packet from May 7th is there.
That is very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. And I do know that with our vocabulary, it's, sometimes they consider it like a maze, but it does tell a lot more vocabulary wise because it is reading in context.
I'm dropping that in for those of you that want to see their board report too. And the board report has the MSU report in it too. Okay. Seeing no more questions here. Again, thanks to my colleagues, Kim, Katie, Michelle, Deirdre, Kristen and Candace for coming out this afternoon. Rita, thank you. Alan, thank you. And then thank you all the districts for being here today. Good luck with the beginning of the school year and have a good afternoon. Thank you.